Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 12th biology students, and this is for 28th November 2020. As all of us know, we are into the revision mode. We are revising chapter number 13, organisms and populations. As I have been telling you, this chapter is relatively easy and it is scoreable. Out of 5 marks you can score from this chapter. The reason being that it is easy, plus since it is something that happens around us every day. If you are a good observer of nature, I think this chapter will fetch you lot many marks. Keeping that in view, we have been reflecting upon what we have been seeing in the nature. What are all the adaptations that animals undergo to survive themselves in the given whether suitable or unsuitable conditions. So they change their physiology, they change their morphology, they change their behavior, they change their biochemistry part of it, and suitable changes in all these morphology, physiology and biochemistry part and even anatomical part makes them to survive in the given ecosystem or in the given habitat. So basically, if animal has to survive, it has to adapt. If animal has to be successful, it has to undergo adaptation. And any organism, including human being, if we cannot adapt to the local situations, to the local environment, to the local ecosystem, our survival becomes difficult. Hence, adaptation is the mantra key for our survival. So, adaptation is an attribute of organism morphological, physiological, behavioral changes that enable the organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat successfully. This is important. So, kangaroo rat in North American deserts fulfill the water requirement by internal oxidation of fat. Okay? The kangaroo rat in the desert, deserts very difficult to get water, and this kangaroo rat makes it by just burning the fat. So once the oxidation of fat takes place, water will be formed. With that water it survives, and in the absence of water, that water that comes out of the oxidation of fat makes the kangaroo rat to be alive. It also has the ability to concentrate its urine so that minimal volume of water is used to remove excretory products. So you must have noticed that when we drink less water and the urine becomes thickly concentrated with a yellow color, yellowish, and immediately the doctor tells you to drink plenty of water so that the urine becomes transparent. So to make that urine transparent and less toxic, as per the doctor's advice, we need to drink lot of water. But if there is no water, what to do? Then in the absence of plenty of water available, the urine has to be a concentrated urine. So when the urine is concentrated, we know that minimal volume of water is going out of our body. That means we are saving the water. Thick cuticle in many plants also prevents loss of water. You must have seen many desert plants having thick cuticle, like a cactus. You must have seen every day in and around you. The camp plants open their stomata during night to reduce the loss of water during photosynthesis. Look at this. Opening. Normally, stomata gets opened in the daytime, but here the stomata are getting opened during night time, and daytime they get closed. So when the stomata are getting closed during daytime, even if there is a lot of heat and a lot of light, the reduction or loss of water will be minimal. Hence, this is a great adaptation by the camp plants. Mammals from colder climates have shorter ears. This also you must observe, and particularly Animal Planet channel or Discovery channel, if you are a fan of that, the animals in the colder region will have short ears and short limbs to minimize heat loss. This is called Allen's rule. So Allen's rule is again making the mammals from colder climates to have shorter ears and shorter limbs. What for? Just to minimize heat loss. In polar regions, aquatic mammals like seals have thick layer of fat called blubber. Again, you must have observed this in Animal Planet or Discovery Channel. Below their skin that acts as an insulator. I am sure you must be using a black tape as an insulator whenever you are finding open cut portion in the electric wire. So your electrician just tries tape it around that leakage point so that you will not have electric shock. Here also same. The blubber acts as an insulator and reduces loss of body heat. So that's a great adaptation, having a blubber. Altitude sickness is observed in higher altitude that includes symptoms like nausea. You must have seen for some people when they climb the mountains, they feel uncomfortable, hypoxia will be there, nausea, means vomiting sensation will be there, they quickly get tired, even body aches will be there, heart palpitations will be there. So this is all due to hypoxia, less oxygen, and atmospheric pressure, high atmospheric pressure. So the person gradually get acclimatized and stop experiencing altitude sickness. This type of adaptation is physiological adaptation. Maybe in the initial stages we will struggle as we reach the altitude, mountain, rocky area. After some time, our body gets adjusted to that situation. So this is physiological adaptation. A number of marine invertebrates and fishes live in temperature always less than 0, and some lives in great depth in the ocean where pressure is very high. By array of biochemical adaptations, basically the enzymes will be making them to adapt. Some organisms like desert lizard lack the physiological ability that mammals have, but deal with high temperature of their habitat by behavioral means. They bask in the sun and absorb heat. So you must have seen the desert lizards, they just come out openly into the sun and absorb heat. And when their body temperature drops below the comfort zone but moves a shade when the ambient temperature starts increasing. That means based on their behavioral patterns, whenever they feel cold, they go to the open sunlight and absorb heat. The moment they feel the temperatures are down, they just go to the shade and the ambient temperature starts increasing. So again, by just movement, with their movements, desert lizards adapt. So by having all these adaptations, physiological, morphological, biochemical, anatomical adaptations, organisms somehow survive. And once they survive, what do? They reproduce. And reproduce for what? To increase their numbers. And whenever a species increases its own numbers, we say the group of new organisms that are formed in a given habitat are called populations. So individuals of any species live in groups is well-defined geographical area. Within the ecosystem, they're all there. They share, they compete for similar resources. What are similar resources? First is the area. They fight for the land, they fight for the food, they fight for the water, they fight for the natural resources which are available in the ecosystem. And then in the fight, survival of the fittest. Remember Darwin's theory. And once the survived ones, they interbreed and constitute a better population, a better fitness population. So what are the various factors that influence a population? These are called population attributes. So population has certain attributes that an individual organism does not, such as individual may have births and deaths, but population has birth rate and a death rate. We say natality and mortality. So birth rate and death rate. The birth and death rates are referred as per capital or per capita births. This is per capita births. For 1,000 people, how many? Like that. For 100 people, how many? So, whether it is birth or death, natality and mortality is based on the numbers. For how many people, how many have taken birth? For how many people, how many died? So this increase or decrease with respect to members of the population. Always this death rate and birth rate will have so many factors that influence. We'll be discussing in detail. So these like health of an individual, the nutrition, food that one eats. So these are the basic factors and the atmosphere that exists in the given ecosystem, right? Sex ratio is another attribute, population attribute of a population. An individual may be male or female, but population has sex ratio. How many males, how many females? As all of you know, in our country already, the number of males are more than number of females. That is a disturbing trend. So the age distribution is plotted for the population. The resulting structure is called age pyramids. So we have planted here the age pyramids. The shape of the pyramid reflects the shape of growth status of population. Depending upon the shape of the pyramid, we understand whether there is populations are expanding or population is stable or populations are declining in a country. And this is very, very important for every country in the world. If the population is expanding, that is a danger signal. Like our own country, we are already 132 crores plus. And if it is a stable one, that's okay. At present, okay. But in future, there's a question mark. Declining, something like New Zealand, Finland, Australia, there is a disturbing trend. If populations come down, the survival of the country itself is a big question mark. Who will fight for the country? Who will work for the country? And if populations become old, aged people are more than youngsters, that's again big threat for the country. So these are the population numericals that play a lot of role in the country's future. So expanding, stable, declining. Now expanding, we are constructing a pyramid with pre-reproductive people at the base. That means they are something like all adolescents. And then reproductive age, that is once you cross 18 plus to something like 50, we can say. And then post-reproductive, above 50. So if it is expanding type, pre-reproductive and reproductive, these two must be broad. Then automatically the numbers will go up, the populations will go up. In whichever country, populations of reproductive stage and pre-reproductive stage are more, like in India, populations will be expanding in that country. Stable one, all the three, pre-reproductive, post-reproductive, reproductive, all are almost the same. Then it maintains its populations. But declining, look at that, something like Australia, New Zealand, the yellow color one, pre-reproductive, children group, very, very least. And then reproductive is also less. And what is disturbing? Post-reproductive means aged people are becoming more in future. So countries' populations will definitely decline. So population size or population density N is measured in terms of number of people, but it may sometimes not appropriate. And what decides the growth of population? The size of the population is not static. It keeps on changing from time to time, depending upon factors like food availability, predation pressure, reduces weather, so climatic factors. So the main factors that determine population growth are: 1. Natality, number of births during a given period in the population. Mortality, number of deaths during a given period in the population. Mortality. Immigration, individuals of same species that have come into the habitat, means people from outside are coming inside to the ecosystem. Immigration, people are migrating, like most of the engineers, doctors, they're all migrating to US from India. You say brain drain. That means naturally the number of at least educated people from India to America is increasing, so India will have the breadth. So the highly skillful and qualitative educated people will be migrating to other countries. That's a drawback for our country. So population density, not only in our country, in any country, will be decided by 4 factors: 2 positive, 2 negative. What are positive? Natality, birth rate. Birth rate will add to the population. And then immigration. Immigration, these two will add, plus plus. And what are the minus? Number of deaths. Mortality is a big minus. And then immigration, people migrating for better opportunities to England, US, Singapore, Saudi. So this is a big threat for us, because it's not only the numbers that are coming down, but the quality of the people that are migrating for better things. So that should be the concern for the government of India, right? So if n is the population density at a time t, then its density at time t plus 1 is nt plus 1 nt plus birth rate plus immigration, because these are adding, minus death rate and immigration. So that should be the density. So population density will increase if the number of births plus the number of immigrants, that is b plus I, increases, is more than the number of deaths plus the number of immigrants, d plus e, otherwise it will decrease. So we will discuss about the growth models in our next session. Thank you.